morning. Thank you for coming today. My name is Dr. Nancy Engstrom Zinn. I am Interim Director for Collections, Exhibitions, and Programs here at the Nordic Museum, and I served as Chief Curator for the Nordic Journeys core exhibition in the new museum when we opened. The entire exhibition, the Nordic Journeys exhibition, we have selected approximately 500 objects from the Nordic Museum collection for display. And we have augmented those objects with a few loans from other North American museums, and most importantly in our Nordic region, Nordic History Gallery, we have supplemented our displays with more than 100 objects borrowed from the Nordic National Museums of Iceland, Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. We're very, very lucky to have those partnerships and very lucky to have those objects on view. This morning we're standing in the Nordic America Gallery, which is one gallery of our core exhibition, Nordic Journeys. And in this gallery we tell the story of the immigration of Nordic people from all the Nordic region to North America. Within this gallery we tell the story of what people brought with them, where did they come from, where did they settle in North America, what are their family histories, what are the things that they consider to be treasures and important things in their lives that they wanted to bring with them when they immigrated to this country. Within that larger story, we've also picked out some specific themes and ideas, and we've also chosen some specific individuals that help to tell the story of immigration through their personal experiences, because it's always very interesting for our visitors and for anyone visiting a museum to be able to meet someone from another time period or another culture so that they can hear directly from that person's experience their story and enliven the message that we're trying to tell here in the galleries. So this morning we're standing with our display of objects and artifacts related to the story of Thea Foss and the Foss Maritime Company. Thea Foss was born in Norway, and she came to the United States, first coming through Canada and then into Minnesota. She arrived in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1881, where she married Andrew Andreas Foss in 1882 in St. Paul. And together they built a life both in Minnesota, but very soon, after the completion of the Northern Pacific Railroad, they decided to come west, and they settled in the Tacoma area. Andrew was a carpenter. He was a shipbuilder, a ship's carpenter. And while he was doing work in his shipbuilding and ship carpentry business, Thea decided to start her own business. So she was a very, very clever and entrepreneurial woman. She started her business with $5. For $5 she purchased one rowboat, and she rented the rowboat out for services of ferrying people and cargo around, and she rented it out to hunters, duck hunters, and fishermen. But very soon she decided to sell the boat. So she cleaned it up and she painted it white, and she painted the trim green, and it was very spiffy and very pretty. And she sold the boat for much more than she paid for it. And with the proceeds of her sale, she bought another boat. And then she sold that boat and she bought another boat. And very quickly, she had a small fleet of boats. So that she was, in essence, had started the Foss Maritime Company. They were raising 5 children. So it's really quite an amazing story to know that she was this active and this devoted both to her family and to her family businesses. So she's quite a woman. And today the Tacoma Waterway has been renamed the Foss Waterway in her honor. Foss Maritime exists today still. It is one of the largest tug and launch towboat concerns in the Pacific Northwest. It's a very important company in this area, and we have Thea's ingenuity, entrepreneurialism to thank for that. So we have on loan to us from Foss Maritime, we have a badge that would have been on the exterior of one of the tugboat stacks with the Foss logo of Always Ready. We also have a wonderful model of the Martha Foss tugboat, which was a very famous tugboat in the Foss maritime fleet. And it's interesting to note that to this day, every boat in the Foss maritime fleet is still named after a family member. So when you see a Foss maritime boat, look for the name, because it is actually named after an individual in the family. So along with those objects that we have directly from Foss Maritime, we have two objects on display in this case that belong to a gentleman named Hugh McCaffrey. And Mr. McCaffrey, he had started his career on a fishing schooner. He actually was a pilot on a very important fishing schooner named the Wawona. But later in his career, he piloted boats for Foss Maritime. And what we have here on display is a sextant, a navigational tool that belonged to Mr. McCaffrey that he used when he was working for the Foss Maritime Company. But next to it is his personal logbook. When he was working for Foss Maritime, he kept meticulous records and meticulous logbooks of the activities of the boats that he was working on, the activities of the crew, and it's really quite amazing. There are entries for every day. He's noted what day of the week they are. He has every single date entered in his logbook and the activities of that day. Now, if you look through this, we have it open to a particular page, and when you come and look at the museum, you might find the logbook open to a different page. So I'm going to read one thing that I thought was really interesting here. He has notes on this open page. He has notes about he's noticing that there is increased naval presence in the Pacific Northwest, an increased naval presence around Tacoma. This is in the summer of 1942. So it is directly related to the buildup of the Navy after Pearl Harbor on the West Coast. He also has entries. One says, kind of a slow day today. We painted the wheelhouse and it looks pretty nice. So they're keeping busy at all the time. But one's really an interesting note. On the top of the second page here, Sunday, May 31st. Sure had a close call this morning. Anchor broke loose and we started to drift into the other vessels. So he goes on to explain how they drifted for a half a mile away from where they were originally supposed to be before they finally got, quote unquote, hooked up and safe. But it's really interesting to see, sometimes he talks about the weather on a particular day, but he's very, very careful to make a log and an entry every single day to talk about what kinds of activities were going on. So it's a really interesting way of learning what it's like, what is it really like working on the water.